Good afternoon. Welcome to my video diary for February here from Strasbourg. I've had quite a lot of feedback from constituents over the last couple of months, and everybody's been asking me, how does it actually work there? So what I thought I'd do is concentrate on one issue that we've been voting on this session. And that's on a piece of regulation about distribution of food to the poorest people in the European Union. Now, the first thing you're probably thinking is, who are these poorest people in the European Union that need food? One tends to think of this more in terms of the developing world. Well, of course, there are hungry people, and it's the mark of any civilised society that we want to give everybody adequate food. And we have a €500 million programme to provide food per year throughout the European Union. I think that might come as a shock to people. It developed out of the Common Agricultural Policy, where those of us who are old enough can remember butter mountains and milk lakes, where there was a lot of food left over. And a programme developed to make sure that that food was adequately distributed. No problem with that. But that's moved on, and we now have that wonderful European unintended consequence issue, where we've carried on with the programme, carried on with the budget, but now we actually have to buy the food to distribute throughout the European Union. Now I ask myself the question, why would we want to do that? Surely feeding the population is an issue for the individual member states, because they all have different social security systems, all have different ways of supporting the underprivileged, or just people who are just down on their luck. And of course these days, with the economies as they are, that's becoming ever more important. So why is distributing from the centre, from Brussels, considered to be a good idea? And it's a good example of an illustration of how the Parliament works, because when we had the debate yesterday, I spoke on behalf of the ECR, and I was effectively saying I'm against this. I think it should be stopped. I don't think it's a good use of money. I don't think that this is money spent in a way that my constituents would consider reasonable. And I know that the member states all have their programmes for how to deal with people in this unfortunate situation. However, virtually everybody else in the Parliament who spoke talked about it being an issue of solidarity with other European citizens. They talked about it being a duty of the better off in Europe to work towards helping the less well off. Now, in theory, you couldn't really disagree with any of that. Of course, I think it's a duty to help people less well off than myself. It's just a question of how you do it. And it does illustrate sometimes the way we have a problem in the European Parliament, because the European parliamentarians often see themselves as a slightly more superior version of their national parliaments. So it's almost taking the high ground, and in this case, the moral high ground on an issue. Well, I simply politically don't see it that way at all. But it's a good example of where my political group is somewhat isolated. We are very much in a minority on this. I have absolutely no doubt. The numbers, there were only about less than 100 MEPs voting against this. So it's an example of where the European Parliament simply lost touch with reality and tries to pressurise parliamentarians to vote almost on moral grounds, when actually they need to cut to the chase of the political issue here. Why is this an issue for Europe? This is an issue for the member state, and somehow that gets lost. So regretfully, I have to say, €500 million will again be taken next year into the budget. This has been prolonged until the end of 2013, and I believe that that's very regrettable. And I hope that helps you to understand a little bit about the work we do here and how we operate within the political context of the Parliament. With that, I look forward to speaking to you all again next month. Thank you.